Hello friends and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to The Sims 4 and welcome back to a speed build. We're doing the barn portion of our broken down farm that we were talking about quite a while ago here in the channel. We did the house, and it's the house where I told y'all I made myself cry a little bit. We're doing the barn now, and we're doing the rundown version of the barn, and I was actually really excited about it. I'm really excited about the story we're telling here because the next chapter is fixing up the house and fixing up the barn, because I realized with businesses and hobbies, even though you can't have a traditional riding school, the Sims won't really come and ride horses, you can sort of set up a training facility, and I think that's a really fun story to tell. You can have horses come on property and do activities, and they will naturally build their skill, and you can have your own horses on property, and it's a fun way to have horses come in and out of the property and have your Sim build their skill with horses and look like a horse trainer, and you can take your own horses to the show, and it's a fun little story to tell, and I'm very excited to tell it. And in part of that story is telling our tale about our grandfather's farm and how he was a champion horse trainer, and how we're gonna come tell that legacy. That's the story we've been telling. Anyways, it's kind of the Spark Notes version. I also do want to address, I'm sorry I'm talking a little bit quietly today. I still have house guests and they are sleeping right now, and I'm trying to sneak in my recording sessions where I can, but I also don't want to be rude and keep them up at all hours of the day and night. So you're getting a little bit of like a quieter, perhaps more ASMR vibe, I guess, today. Oh my goodness. It is a large barn. I believe it's 5 stalls, if I recall. And then a small animal area is what I'm calling it. It's just an area with some fencing, because a horse ranch did come with goats, and I love the idea of goats and little sheep living with your horses. I think it's a really good idea to introduce your horses to more animal types to get them used to them so they don't fear them. I like the idea of having a little area, or it could just be that you rescue the goats and sheep, whatever story you want to tell, or you could maybe put a cow barn sized down in there if you wanted, and take the barn away so that the cow can go. There's lots of options with it. It's just sort of a multi-use space. There is enough stuff in here, just like with the house, that if you needed to move a Sim in and have them live here, or you had a horse move in, a horse could live here full-time as it is. None of the stalls are complete in their own right. Nothing is like all put together to make it a nice comfy stall necessarily, but there is water, there is a place for food, and there is at least one bed. You'll all spread out, you'll have to work at it, but there is enough. I do believe even when you're doing a rundown build, for the most part, it's nice to try to have something on property, or at least to build on a lot where stuff is nearby, so that if you're doing regs riches, it's not wholly unattainable, which in The Sims it's really not that hard to find ways to make basic living stuff available to your Sim. Necessities, if you will, but it is always nice when it's on your property. And if you're going to download a lot with a story, even if that story is run down, it is really nice to still have that stuff available. So you could move a horse in right away and it would make do. Probably wouldn't be great, but it would make do. Here we're trying to figure out the layout of the barn, or I guess more the aesthetics of the barn. I really liked that fence with the little pergola over the top. I loved the way the lanterns looked, and I honestly might build something with those in mind again. This part made me really sad. I love that little gate. That little gate is actually really reminiscent of my full-size gates on my real property. I have like pipe fencing like that, tube fencing like that. They're a little short for like using in a stall, and that's fine. They made them, it's very clearly that they made them with the little mini sheep and goats in mind. But the thing is there's no matching fence, and it makes them really hard to use because there's no fence that matches like at all, really. And that's a little bit unsettling. So I did the best I could. I fought with it quite a bit. I can't remember if I cut it out or leave it in. But I wish they had given us a fence that matched that gate, because I do love that big, and I wish they had given us a tall and a small version of that gate. I love the small version, but I really wish they'd given us a tall version, because like right now I'm actively trying to turn most of my fencing on the farm. I have barbed wire, which is not great. I mean, it's effective, but it's not great. I'm trying to turn all of my fencing into this tube fencing, this pipe fencing. They're called cattle gates where I live, or cattle panels. They're really awesome. They're really sturdy, and they hold up really well. The problem is they're about $100 a piece for not even the super long ones. So it's very expensive to do your fencing like that. And so I literally go and buy like a panel at a time, put another like 10-foot section down. It's so silly. Luckily they hook together really nice. But yeah, I will forever wish that I had fencing like that. I think that would be a beautiful thing to have. Here I'm trying to figure out what kind of walls I want, what kind of fencing I want in here, what I'm looking at. I'm really trying to decide. I wanted like big stalls because your granddad, or whoever you're playing in this world, in my story it's a grandfather, was like pretty good at what he did. He was like pretty famous for it and stuff, right? So in my head it made sense to have like fancier stalls, but the fancier stalls, I couldn't figure out how to make them look run down, and that was the problem, right? Is like, by the end of this wasn't being taken care of, it wasn't housing animals anymore, so I wanted it to look still kind of run down, and I think we get there in the end, but it took me a little while to figure out, I'm not gonna lie to you. It took a hot minute to figure out. And here's this attack room. I just left it open. You would probably want to put a door on it in reality, but also the windows are open, then it's The Sims, so really I don't think it matters all that terribly much. These little spandrels kicked my tail end, and in fact I still don't think they're perfect, and I just don't think perfect is quite going to happen in this build. They did not want to layer right. In fact, I think I ended up cutting out most of it. I fought for a long time to get these spandrels to work, and they wouldn't quite do what I wanted them to do. They just wouldn't quite do it. So yeah, dealing with that was a little bit of an issue. You can see me fighting with it here, trying to figure out what the problem is. The problem is just, it's trying to make everything a room. It wasn't fighting with me. I had changed some of the walls to gates and some of the gates to walls, and it was just back and forth, and it was a mess. Got it in the end, I think. Or at least most of them. Or at least I was able to hide what didn't get got, if that makes sense. Back of the barn was a little bit dull, and I was kind of back and forth on whether that was great or not. I was like, it's kind of boring to look at. And then I was like, well, I mean, barns from certain angles are kind of boring to look at. Like, I love them because they mean, horses to me, and me, I'm a resident horse girl. But like, if you were to look at even my barn, which was an old dairy, it's just walls and a roof. I mean, there's nothing terrible. Like, mine doesn't even have windows. It has 2 doors and a huge outdoor run space, so don't feel bad for the horses. But they're never in there, so there's no reason to pop a window in. And it was a dairy building, so it wasn't built to, like, originally the animals weren't in there for that long, if that makes sense, because it was like a dairy building, not like a barn. But I turned it into a barn. So my girls are pretty happy in there. It's heated. They're pretty spoiled. So anyways, the back of the barn is kind of plain. It does have decoration around it. We do some landscaping and stuff, but for the most part, it's just little windows where little horsies can see their little heads out, and it's really cute, and I really enjoy it. I like the look of this barn. I liked the open nature of it. Now, in reality, because Chestnut Ridge does have winters if you have seasons, and winters are quite cold, this kind of barn may not be completely ideal if you're planning on training all of the time, because you would want a warmer setup. And in reality, if you were training all the time in a very cold place, you would probably want some sort of indoor, or at least roofed arena, and or roofed like round pen, which we do create a round pen here in just a little bit, you'll see. It took me a little more math than I'm proud to admit, but in The Sims, it doesn't matter so much. Your horse isn't going to slip and fall in the snow. You're not going to have to worry necessarily about abscesses or things like that. How the ground is affecting them, pulled muscles, all of those things. It's totally fine. So it's not a big deal. And your horses aren't going to get cold in these stalls. So totally fine. Totally works out. See, again, looking at those gates, aren't they cute? But they just look just like a little bit small, huh? Just like the teeniest bit small. It's okay. I think I'm being picky now. The Sims, obviously, it's not a horse game, right? So I can't sit here and complain because they didn't, get super intense about it. I was laughing the other day because I was talking to somebody about Little Simsies pack and how she made like a cute little cozy gamer pack, and how it made so much sense for her to make that because she is, the coziest of cozy gamers, and it was such a cute idea. And we were talking about like, what would I do if I made a pack? And I was thinking about it, and I realized I would make everyone so mad, probably, because I would probably end up doing a My First Pet stuff situation, in that I would like probably make a pack that was horse related, because like, I mean, my first choice would be like, for the game specifically, wallpapers and floorings. Like, me, I'd pick out like a million wallpapers and floorings and a bunch of like recolors of things. But like, if they said you can make anything in the world, make a pack, I would probably make like horse accoutrement. Like, we have some saddles. I'd probably make a couple more saddles. I would probably make more gear for the horses, so it'd be a cast, quote unquote, and like gameplay and build mode pack. We'd have cross ties of like the ability to like make wash stalls and things. It'd be great to have cross ties. It'd be great. I'd love to have like footing for the arena. I'd make a few more barrel variations and different jumps. I would love to do like all kinds of things like that. I think it'd be really fun to create like how in businesses and hobbies they have the board where you teach things. I'm drawing a blank whiteboard. There we go. And it has like the designated marked space where like the activities happen. I would love to create something where it's like your sim stands in the middle and then there's a marked space. You could build like a round pen around it and you could lunge your horse. I always think that's such a beautiful way to connect with your horse if done right. There are ways to do it wrong, like with everything. I think that's such a beautiful, fun way to connect with your horse. And stuff like that would be really cool. More bedding, obviously more build stuff. I would love to be able to build more stalls and things like that. And I would add a whole bunch of like activities to do with your horse that aren't just riding, you know, showmanship. It'd be really fun to get the kids involved. I would add like a 4-H or an FFA system. I was a 4-H kid. That should shock no one. And so we started talking about it, and I was literally like, oh, but that would be so annoying because that would literally be like my first pet stuff where it's a kit for a pack. That would be so frustrating for everyone who wasn't me. Oh well. You know what I do wish though? With businesses and hobbies, I do wish they had made almost every skill teachable. I understand that that's not attainable. Like, that would be such an undertaking as a developer. Having said that, that would be really cool because it would be really cool to run a writing school. I think it'd be really fun to play like a bunch of little kids in town and then have like the writing school, maybe boarding barn situation. And then you could straight up have Pine Hollow, straight up do Saddle Club. I think that'd be so fun. As it is, like I said, this is going to be a training facility, or at least that's how we're going to do our best doll housing here and play pretend. I think it'd be fairly attainable though, because you would just set up a kiosk and it would just be like by the hour, I suppose, and the horses could come, and then they're just using the jumps around, using the barrels and stuff. I think realistically, if you were to set it up like that, you might have to put barrels and jumps on your property itself. I haven't done that here because the property we're building on, the only 64 by 64 lot here in Chestnut Ridge, has the way the world is kind of set up. If you were to zoom all the way out, there's like barrels and jumps on each side of the lot with fencing around it that is meant to look like you are like on a 300 by 500 lot. Like, it's meant to look like a big sprawling ranch, so those tools are already out there. So I didn't put any of the tools down. I didn't put like a ball down or anything like that because there are tools, although you might need a ball specifically. I'm not remembering right now if that's true or not. But so I didn't put any down on the lot. Thinking about it within the context of businesses and hobbies, it's possible you might have to put those down on your lot specifically to make them work. I don't know if the horses will play on the other things. But on the same hand, like, that's up to you whether you want to train other people's horses or just have other people's horses around to make it look like you're training. Totally up to you. And then have your own horses that, you know, your play style you do. Here we're putting a lot of wildflowers is the word that's supposed to come out of my mouth. A lot of the grass out here, putting some broken down things here. I will say something about a farm. In my experience, no matter how fancy the barn is, there is still stuff stacked up against at least one wall that is the eventually pile. It's the broken things, the weird things, that really neat piece of wood where you're like, I can't really, it's the pile of baling twine. Every horse farm has a pile of baling twine from the hay coming in, and you don't want to get rid of it because you're like, I could use it, and then you like never do, right? You never use it. And then like 3 years down the line, you're like, I'm gonna get rid of it all. And you like dump it all, you get rid of it all, you deal with it. And then like the next week you need a big old batch of twine. It's insane. But you know, that kind of thing. It doesn't matter how clean the barn is, doesn't matter how fancy the horses are. If you look hard enough, you will find a wall where all that stuff is just sort of stacked up against. So we created that. We put some holes in the roof to make sure it looked run down. We put a tree through the fencing, put some grass through the fencing, put some dead trees out there. You did see me playing around with one of those, well, it's a trough, but it's just the big metal containers. I was trying to make it look like the water trough and then have the horses be able to drink from that. I couldn't get it lined up right. I want to play with that again in my free time to like see if I can get that to work, because that'd be a really cool thing. But I couldn't get it to work here, and unfortunately it was one of those where it was like, maybe I should like move on. You know, like maybe this isn't the best use of my time. Here I'm making the round pen. Give it a second. This is a let it cook moment because I built it with platforms thinking I could like sink the platforms into the ground. That wasn't right. There you can see some of the barrels and jumps in the background there that make it look so much bigger and nicer. It would be really cool. I think it was The Sims 3 that we could do 100 by 100 lots. This would have been the world to do a 100 by 100 lot. Or even like, yeah, I think 100 by 100 would have been really cool. As it is, 64 by 64 is pretty great. And I will say, with the level of detailing you can do in The Sims 4 and with what you can do in The Sims 4, 64 by 64 in most cases is quite overwhelming. It is a lot to build. Here I'm trying to figure out how to play with this with walls or figure out how to do foundations. Basically, I just didn't want the lip because most round pans are just footing in a circular pattern with fences. Sometimes without fences. I've seen them without. That scares me, but whatever. I would kill for a round pen. I think it'd be really nice and useful. I have a really lovely outdoor arena though. I can't complain because my pasture was split. It's like a little pasture and a bigger pasture because I had cows on my property. and the little pasture was just weedy, just so weedy. And so my horses are out on the bigger pasture during the day, and then they come in at night to the barn. And we decided, because it was such a pain in the rear to deal with the little pasture, it's kind of in an awkward spot on the property. It was, like I said, very weedy, and it's still very weedy even being turned into arena. We just put a bunch of footing out there and slowly kind of let due course take riding in it every day, and it turned into a really nice arena over the last 5 years. Actually 6 now, I think. So I'm very blessed and I'm not complaining. I would love to figure out mobile panels to get a round pen though, because sometimes it's nice to close the space, close the thinking space, so that you and your horse are thinking more about the very like little intricacies of what you're doing, and you're not worrying so much about the arena space or the gate or things like that. There is a use case for it. So anyways, here I put in a round pen because I just thought it made sense. It's nice, and you can, you know, lock the gate and put a horse in there if you need to hold a sim there for a minute, or put your little goats and sheep if you need to corral them for a minute. It has practical uses, but it's also just fun. I'm putting terrain paint down. I'll be honest with you, if and when you download this, that terrain paint probably won't be there. I have not yet put a lot down in the last like year and a half that has had terrain paint. I don't know what's going on with that. But in theory, there is terrain paint on this lot. And now we're just doing a bunch of the landscaping. This is the part where it's kind of, and the rest. And I almost thought about making this its own video because it didn't quite fit in with the barn. But the reality of it is it's mostly set dressing. And it's mostly placeholders until you come in and you turn this lot into what you want it to be. So there's going to be like a lake here, and there's going to be a little outbuilding and stuff, and you're going to see this all in the screenshots. I didn't make you watch me place about 4 million bits of grass, although I did, and I listened to country western music, and it was a fabulous time. There's a little garden and things. But anyways, guys, I've been talking at you for a hot minute, and I think I'll just let you hang out here and watch the screenshots. I'm really proud of this one. Soon we'll be fixing this one up into what it could be. I think that'll be really, really fun, and I'm definitely going to be playing in this lot. And yeah, but I hope you're having a good day and you're feeling loved. And if you're not feeling loved, please know that I love you. I'm glad you exist. I'm glad you're here hanging out. You make the world a better place just by being you. Next up is Minecraft, and then another build, but I haven't built it yet, so I don't know what it is. I'm a little bit behind, so we'll figure it out. Wish me luck. Anyways, I think that's all for me. Okay, love you, bye.